All right, it is 11:36 a.m. on a Friday on the east end of Long Island, Riverhead to be exact. It's a beautiful summer morning. We are heading to North Fork Animal Welfare League, going shelter to shelter, keeping up the shelter to shelter pace. We've been in Utah this year. Now we're back on Long Island, which is pretty amazing. A little anxious, always anxious going to shelters because you're dealing with this really high stress environment. You can feel it coming off of the dogs that are there. And so we try to bring in some calm, but there's always definitely a little bit of nerves, especially when I'm going to a new shelter to meet new dogs. So we'll see what's going down. It's going to be awesome. Here we come. Asparagus on sale. All right, let's do it. We're gonna jump inside, meet with Taylor. Taylor is the manager here and also a trainer herself, has a great mind for dog behavior. I'm really curious to see what they do to get dogs out and into homes so quickly. They have a pretty high turnover rate, which is amazing. So I wanna talk to her about that and see what they're doing, what they're finding successful. We're also gonna work with a few dogs. That's why I got all my gear nice and handy. And it's gonna be a good day at the shelter. Let's try to make it happen and help some dogs. Hi, beautiful dog.
So this is the main kennel section.
Right.
We have about 32 dogs here right now.
Okay.
All of them, most of them very, very sweet. All the dogs on this side, a lot of them we pulled from Brookhaven Animal Shelter. We get dogs from Transport. It's pretty quiet back here right now. We like doing click for quiet, so that just helps
Right.
the dogs be a little calmer when visitors come.
Click for quiet would be like if the dog has like all 4 feet on the floor and is quiet, click and reward.
Yeah.
Some places do it, some don't.
Because usually they go a little crazy if strangers come back here, but it's
Right.
definitely helped.
Right. Who's that?
That's Harriet.
Harriet,
Yeah.
what are you doing? All the information you need on the dog. Sex, how long they've been here, breed type. I think a lot of some shelters are starting to not do like breed labeling. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think there's pros and cons to both because people think if the breed is listed, that's actually what the dog is. So even if it looks nothing like what the dog is, like it's basically just going off of visual characteristics.
Right.
They think that means that's exactly what the dog is.
Right,
so I feel
right.
like I like trying to stay away. I like putting most of them as mixes, I guess, of some sort.
Yeah.
But I feel like either way, it's like...
It's so tricky though too, because like genetics are like a big part of the puzzle.
Yeah.
I think there's some shelters are trying to start to get like DNA testing kits like donated. Genetics matter, I think, too.
A lot of the Georgia shelters we pull from, they just list everyone as an American shelter dog.
Right. How many dogs do you pull from like the South usually or other places?
It depends on space. Usually we have, I would say on average, maybe a transport once a month.
Okay. And how many end up transport usually? Depends.
So they usually get split between this location and the Southold location. So usually about like 30 dogs total.
Okay. What's like what's the standard adoption fee? Not for a puppy, just
For a dog 1 to 7 years old is $175.
175, and then
Yeah.
puppies 200. You said? Okay.
And then anyone over 7 is $100.
Okay.
And then cats and kittens are $60.
That seems reasonable to me.
Yeah.
There are shelters that do charge 500. Or
I would say
more.
we're probably one of the lowest adoption fees on the island. So
Well,
a lot of
yeah.
people say it's accessible for them when it might not be otherwise.
Of course.
I think $60 is a steal because even like just the straight spay or neuter, that's at least $120.
Yeah. I also like the puppy thing. This is what I was talking about this before. Like shelters are starting to charge whatever $500 for a puppy. I'm like, well, you're just selling puppies then too.
Yeah, because you could go to a pet store and get them for the same price.
Yeah, yeah, you know. So it's really interesting. It has become sort of this weird business. Hi, Lotto. What's happening? This dog is gorgeous. You want that? That's the good stuff.
Yeah. I did a behavioral assessment on him, but the second I picked up a bone to do resource guarding, he cowered in a way that was like, this dog
As if
is.
he was gonna get hit or something.
Yeah.
He's skinny too, right?
Yeah.
He's a stray.
So he was an owner surrender.
Okay.
He was an owner surrender.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Lotto. You're okay, dude. That's a good treat. Take that. You'll love it. And the common misconception, I definitely think among a lot of the public, is the dog will go to the shelter and they'll get fed and they'll be fine and then they'll find a home.
Yeah, we just had someone come in about that dog Lotto that we were talking before, and it was basically like, well, you guys can fix the dog, but it's some things can't really be fixed.
Yeah, for certain. And I mean, it's hard enough to train dogs like in a calm home setting. Then add on the stress of an animal. Animal shelters are not the place to train dogs. I mean, it's just not.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, if someone is calling a trainer to work with a problem at their house, that dog has a committed person behind them. But these dogs don't really have anyone besides the staff, and there's not one person stepping up, deciding to take the dog out of the shelter and bring it home. So that's not always feasible, especially if you have other pets or depending on the severity of the issues that you're dealing with at the shelter.
Yeah, and then from the dog's viewpoint, it's got to be, like, I always think their whole mind is like just thrown into like utter chaos. And then they go into like what we all do, fight or flight. And that's how they're then living, just in constant fight or flight. Like when a dog comes in, like how quickly do they usually leave here and find a home? What would you say like the average is?
So I feel like for the small guys, I would say maybe a week and a half.
Okay.
For the bigger guys, if they're friendly, I would say 2.5 weeks.
2.5 weeks. That's incredible. And so right now, your longest resident is Midnight.
Yeah.
7 months or so, you think?
Yeah,
8
like
months?
7.5 months at this point.
Big boy. He's a big dog. What do you attribute that to? Because the last, like, say, 3 shelters I've been in, I mean, especially the last 2, I've seen long-term dogs. I don't just mean like a year or 2. I'm talking 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. What do you think like the formula is here, or like why is it that the dogs that come here are getting out quick?
So I think it's a combination of us doing the click for quiet and allowing people to go into the kennels during our open hours. So we don't require appointments. People can just basically walk in anytime between 10 and 3, look at our adoptable animals, and sometimes I'm even able to process applications same day. So people kind of like the ease of being able to come in, pick out a dog, and bring home a dog, because if they're going to buy a dog, it's going to be that easy. So putting any barrier for that process is going to increase your length of stay. I think doing play groups helps because it helps keep the dogs a little bit more balanced, giving them an outlet with like their same species in the yard. They get to hang out in the pool. That definitely helps keep their arousal level low once back in the kennel. So they show better and people walk through and they see either a dog that was just in play group, happy on the ground, chewing a bone, anything like that. So that shows well to the public.
Do you also feel like you don't, for whatever reason, like a lot of behavioral dogs, quote unquote behavioral dogs, don't come through here, or you're getting, for lack of a better term, just really highly adoptable dogs too?
I think it's because we pull a combination. So since we're the town shelter, we'll get all the strays. Majority of the strays that we get are the pit bulls. Because we use transport to our advantage, like we pull from high kill shelters down south, we're able to get a variety of dogs that at least help get people in the door. And then even if they don't get one of those dogs that they came in for, sometimes they might go to a stray that we got in, something like that. So I think just generating foot traffic through getting those transports pretty consistently and getting the dogs that look a little different, I think that helps just bring people in the door and helps other animals leave.
But yeah, I think it's amazing that you're able to like get so many dogs here and get them out. So 1 week, 2 weeks, like that's a big deal, as opposed to 3 months, 4 months, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. You know, at
Yeah.
which point for me, that's not even a win. If a dog that's been in a shelter, in a kennel for 7 years finally gets out, I don't feel like that's a win. I feel like
Yeah.
we've done a big disservice to that dog. So.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of times the reason they're at the shelter so long is because of maybe behavioral issues that maybe an experienced person or an experienced adopter can handle, but the general adopter isn't looking to take on a project. And a lot of trainers aren't necessarily looking to take on a project. It's kind of looking for a unicorn home.
And that's, unicorn homes, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. We're gonna work with Avery. Avery just came in from Brookhaven, Brookhaven is a municipal shelter, so it's a town shelter. She's really scared, really shut down. My goal is you don't ever want to put pressure on a dog who's looking for relief. So my goal is not to go in and just put a leash on and drag her out. We're gonna go real easy, real steady with this. If she's not into it, if she doesn't want to roll out with me, then I'll just have Taylor, somebody that works here, they can take the dog out, somebody who's built a little bit of a rapport, some trust with the dog. They can bring the dog out to me and we can all just hang out. Sometimes working a dog means just literally meeting the dog where they are and just hanging out and letting them start to adjust and get used to them. You gotta think about the trauma they've been through. Gotta be mindful and respectful of that. No need to put unnecessary pressure on any dog, and you gotta be really conscious of that. There's no room for the ego to take over and say, I gotta get this dog to do what I want it to do. That is old news. We don't do that anymore. It's not necessary. So let's meet Avery and we'll see what's going on with her. Hi, you might just be my favorite dog here. I'm just kidding, I have no favorites. Hi Avery, what's happening? Was she like this with you when you first took her out? Yeah, okay.
They said that Brookhaven, they weren't even able to get her to walk without, there's another dog that she came in with, Birdie, that she seems to like.
Okay.
But she would not walk unless she was with that dog at the shelter.
So I wouldn't say this is uncommon, like you get a lot of dogs in this state, right?
Yeah.
So again, the goal is like, you gotta be really gentle. She doesn't want food. For me, like, this isn't about training at all. This is about like trust and just building trust with the dog. We're just gonna take them on a hike, see if she loosens up a little bit, because they do know each other, and then we'll put them in the yard together. You wanna say hi?
Say hi.
All right, we'll just kind of give them a nice little steady, good. Hi, buddies.
Come on. Come on. Okay.
All right. Birdie, lead the way. So you can see like the franticness of Avery. Like for me, that's like the central nervous system is just like firing all over the place. And so that's a real challenging thing, is then getting dogs back to a more like balanced place in an animal shelter. But once they start to trust a few people, you'll see them start to even out a little bit. What's up, buddy? What's up? Most animal shelters have yards like this now set up. If an animal shelter has access to yards like this and you can get groups of dogs together, that, in my opinion, does wonders for dogs. I think the more we can give dogs the chance to be dogs, off leash, doing their thing, the better it's going to be in the long run. We're asking dogs to live in this modern day world that they're a lot of the time, from an evolutionary standpoint, are not ready to do. They're just not there yet. They're not ready to be fully domesticated. I think what can make this successful going from shelter to shelter is, we get to come to these amazing places and meet amazing people like Taylor, who has this incredible mind for behavior and for dogs, but also has really simple and logical solutions. And that's the key, is we need to start thinking more with our minds and our hearts, and not just our hearts or just our minds. I think that's really important. What's beautiful about Dog Spelled Backwards, for me, why we're doing this, is because we start to develop this kinship with all these people. Like Taylor and I are now becoming friends, or have become friends, because of dogs. Everybody that was here today filming met other people who love dogs, love cats also. So there's this really special thing in play at all times when we're dealing with animals. And if we can start to use that to treat each other better, I say it all the time, it's really gonna help. So support North Fork Animal Welfare League, support your local shelter, and let's just try to show each other love and make it happen for all the right reasons. Peace.